So a couple of weeks ago, I watched Shang-Chi.
And how did you find it?
I actually loved it, but I
Mm.
wish that it was not so rushed.
Yeah, you
The
captured
plot,
the like. Actually, I really think you captured Asian culture pretty well.
yes, very well.
Yeah, but I felt like it was kind of
The
skimmy.
plot lah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I feel like maybe the characters can develop. Like I haven't gotten to know them very well yet, and then it ended
It's true.
already.
I felt like the show kind of wasted the actors a little
Maybe
bit.
the only one person that I feel a lot is the dad.
Yeah. Tony Leung was the best in the show.
I feel
Completely
like,
the best.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, his whole journey, but I thought the main character should be Shang-Chi. Okay.
I
But
know.
but okay.
Yeah, I found him a little bit too. But you enjoy the action sequences.
But that was like the final scenes.
I kept telling people like he can act when he's fighting, but then the rest of the show his face is like yeah.
Oh.
But I should enjoyed him very much, didn't you, I should?
Yes, please.
What did you enjoy about Shang-Chi?
She liked him.
Is this allowed on the podcast?
What?
Wait, that sounds so like oh.
She enjoyed his face and his body, guys.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, but Tony Leung stole the show lah. He was so good. But you found the
Mm.
ending very sad.
Yes, he's not technically a bad guy.
I would disagree, but okay.
I mean he
He got
used
duped.
to yeah at that point of time
He was too hurt and grieving.
Yes, so I
Yeah.
feel pity for him.
Okay. Well, I was telling you that my favorite line of the movie was this line, right? Where I think it was Michelle Yeoh's character, another great actor, said
Yes.
to Shang-Chi, right? You are the product of all who came before you, both the good and the bad. Stop hiding. You only prolong the pain. Man, I felt very
Mm.
emotional when she said that. I was like, oh my God, that's me. That's what I'm going through right now. Yeah. But
Yes.
anyway, that is pretty relevant because it'll be relevant to what we talk about today. Our episode is entitled, How Do I Get Where I Want to Be? Now, title is pretty deceptive. It's the question all of us ask as we're growing up, as we're moving on in life.
Yep.
But really, the question that we should be asking is like, who do we want to become, and how do we figure out who we are so that we can get to where we want to be or do in life.
Yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully you'll get a sense of that in this EP.
Yes.
Because again, thanks for all the questions,
Yeah, we've
guys.
gotten a lot of questions from
Oh
you
man,
guys.
a lot. We
Yeah,
have to
a
whittle
lot.
it down.
Yeah, so we'll be
Yeah.
answering some of it in this episode. Then the other questions, some of it we've already answered in
Episode
episode
25.
25, which we talked about calling.
Yeah.
And then episode 27, we talked about creativity. So you can go and listen to those episodes.
Yeah, and then figure out the difference between identity and calling and all that lah. Okay.
Yep.
So today, however, we're gonna try and focus on some more practical advice on how you discover your identity and calling. And practical advice on what to do about career decisions and I don't know lah, life decisions. Okay. So we've been reading in TiVo this book called Grit, The Power of Passion and Perseverance, and it's by Angela Duckworth, and she talks about how there are 3 stages to discovering your identity and getting to where you want to be lah.
Yeah.
Okay, and the first is
Interest, passion.
yeah, she uses the word interchangeably.
Yes.
Yes, the second one is
Discipline.
and she talks about in this that we all have to kind of use discipline to develop our interest and passion into talent and then into skills. Okay, and then
Yep.
finally the third one is calling, which she defines as your passion and skills being connected to people and making an impact. And
Yeah.
I like that definition
Hmm.
because it takes it out of the realm of just that it's all spiritual and like it's a little bit more like, oh, okay, this is about my life having purpose and meaning by making a difference in people's lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think some of you asked during your the questions that you sent in, whether calling is something from God or from myself. Do I discover it from being in community? Well, the answer is all of the above.
Yes.
Sometimes having God helps, but there is still a very practical component to it. Like, it must make a difference in people's lives. Yeah, so today we're going to get into it, okay? How to discover your passion, how to work discipline to that, and then how to get to that eventual calling that you have. Yes.
Yes, and the first thing we'll start off with is passion and interest, which is in order to be motivated and resilient, half of the equation is discipline.
Yes.
But the other half of the equation is that we at least have to be interested in the things that we're doing,
Yeah.
in the life that we are living.
Yeah. So it's not just work yourself to death, and therefore you are a gritty, resilient person. Nah,
Yeah.
you actually have to have some interest in the things that you are doing to
Mm.
stay motivated. Okay.
Yeah.
So actually, interest is a good thing. Passion is a good thing.
Mm.
In fact, Angela Duckworth says you need an interest in something for it to even get as far as that you even want to discipline it to begin with,
Yeah,
and
true.
to turn it into your calling
Yeah.
lah. Yeah, so actually we're probably going to go back and forth about this quite a bit today, because
Mm.
it is 50% passion, 50%
Discipline.
discipline. Okay, so we thought we'd give you a method right today to start to do for yourself to identify your passion, interest, or what Simon Sinek calls your why.
Yep.
Okay, and the first is right to make a list.
Mm.
Okay, so start by making a list, draw a column, and then ask yourself, what am I passionate about? What am I good at? What am I interested in? Just list it all down. Okay, list maybe 20 things lah.
Mm.
Okay, for a start. Now, some of the things you list might be tangible, some of it might be intangible. So, for example, tangible things might be I like basketball very much.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or I love science. This is my favorite subject. Other things could be more intangible. For example, I love being with friends, or I love tutoring kids, for example. Like there's a more intangible component, okay?
Yeah.
Now, don't list every single thing, okay? Otherwise, you could list up to 100, all right? So, for example, all of us love being with friends, right?
Yep. Yep.
All of us have a human need to be with friends, right? But only list it if you feel like there's something about being with friends that is more than just important to your basic needs as a human being, but you feel like it might be like important to your identity and to your calling lah. Okay. Okay, so list all these things in one column.
Yep.
Then the next thing you do is on the right side, write down next to the first column how each particular thing makes you feel and why it makes you feel that way.
Oh.
Okay, so this is about finding the meaning behind the what stuff that you list down, that you enjoy, that you're passionate about. And then eventually, as you do that, right, you should discover that there are probably a couple that are the most important ones in your life. And you might even be able to rank those things, like these 5 things out of the 20 or 30 are most important, and these are like where they are as priorities in my life. Yeah, okay. So for example, when I was younger, I might write down a lot of artistic interests.
Yep.
And artistic things that I'm good at. So writing, acting, directing, singing, painting, all I like it all. Okay. But then so when you're younger, you feel like, I cannot make up my mind. Which one is actually more important to me? Well,
Yeah.
but once you sit down, you start to reflect, right, on the second column. You will begin to be able to articulate meaning behind those things. And then you'll realize, okay, so for me, writing is the most important of the lot. So I'm good at it. I'm good at using it to build worlds, to educate, to present the
Connect.
truth, connect, communicate. Okay. So that one is the most important. I'm good at it and I'm passionate about it, and it leads to all these other things that I enjoy. Now, acting, for example, I like doing it because I like being told what to do sometimes. But I also realize that I only like it when it's like I want to take a break from leadership, where I don't want to tell people what to do. I want to be told what to do and not have to think. Yeah, so I go, oh, so I may not want to pursue that, but it's like maybe artistic things to take a break on. Yeah, okay.
Yep.
So another example, painting. Okay, I remember one time one of my mentors commented, because I was clearing my room and then I posted a picture of all these paintings I had done during JC, because I was an art student. And then they were like, oh, that's so good. But how come I never see you do this before? Then I was like, oh, I can do it and I'm good at it, but I don't like doing it. Okay, so you start to identify the feelings you have, whether it's
Yeah.
good or bad, and what kind of feelings, and understand the meaning behind the why behind those feelings and what you do lah. Okay, so one example, for example, that what can lead you to a deeper why is, for example, directing. So I'm not bad at directing, but I realize it's not because I enjoy it. It's because I'm a strategic thinker. And when I lead in TiVo, I tend to operate like a director. Yeah, so I like it, but more than that, I like directing in TiVo because it's leadership, it's connection, and it's mentoring people. But I don't want to do it as an artist. Yeah. Okay, so this is how it's helpful. It's
Yep.
okay. Ringing any bells right now?
I'm trying to think about what I'm passionate about when I'm younger also,
Uh-huh.
PC, which is like, I think for me, when I'm younger, I enjoy, I think maybe the main thing is I enjoy administrating, and
Uh-huh.
I enjoy setting, having a clear goal, be it
Mm-hmm.
I set the goal myself or somebody else's goal.
Mm.
And then when the goal happens, I feel accomplished, like, oh,
Mm.
like I did something.
Mm.
Yeah. So learning new things
Mm.
is also my
Yeah.
interest. So when
Hence you being on this podcast. Yeah, okay.
yeah, so when I'm younger, I always want to try new things,
Mm.
like cycling, all the activities kind of thing.
And it comes out in your message preaching too, right? For you, like sometimes preaching is an exploration of new ideas, right?
Yeah.
And new ways of thinking.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's that. Yeah.
But you were saying something just now, like you like to administrate, like
oh yeah,
help people
I like to help people.
through
Like
administration.
yeah. I like to support my teachers when I'm younger. I realized.
You know, you said that just now because we've never talked about that thing before. But I was like, your relationship with me kind of makes a lot of sense right now.
Yeah,
I
I was
have an
thinking
idea,
that,
and then you will go and administrate the execution
yeah,
of it. Yeah.
because I remember in primary school, I spent like the whole entire 1.5 months of holiday every single day. I'll go back to the school myself and help sort out all the notes, the maths, and clean the whole shelves and everything. And I feel very accomplished after the end of 1.5 months.
Oh my god.
And I'll go there at 8 a.m. in the morning. I don't know why. Until 2. And I feel like, wow.
Okay, but it's interesting you say that because if I were to do the same thing, I would do it happily. I wouldn't enjoy it, but I'll do it happily. But the reason behind it is I'm
Different.
serving the person who
Mm.
needed that help versus the actual administration of stuff.
Oh, PC,
Unless I
guess
could do
both.
something strategic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so there you go. Okay, so that is method number
Okay.
one.
Yep.
All right, so the second method, right, that I have for you today is it's about identifying a story. Now, this method we took from Simon Sinek in his book Find Your Why. We read Start Your Why. Start
Yeah.
with Why, but
Yeah.
he has another book, Find Your Why.
Yes.
And basically, right, what he tells us to do is to take a piece of paper and then draw a straight line. And the beginning of the line is the start of your life, and the end of the line is where you are at now. And the top of the line is supposed to be your positive emotions, and the bottom is your negative emotions. Okay. So you're supposed to kind of go through the whole timeline of your life and pick out specific incidents that really stood out to you that you feel is relevant to your identity, relevant to your calling lah.
Yeah.
So for example, it could be when I was younger, in secondary school, I had teachers who, well, most teachers didn't like me lah, because I was quite naughty and quite mischievous. But I had a lot of like teachers, women teachers in my life who even if they weren't teaching me a subject, like incidents I can remember where they would speak into my life and mentor me, and they stick out to me very clearly in my memory. And so I would chart, like, for example, okay, I have this much positive feelings about this thing. And then maybe further down in my life, there's this other thing. Maybe I mentored somebody and it changed their life. Then or they told me it changed their life. And then I have a very high moment here. Okay, but it can also be negative moments. So for example, seeing injustice. Like, oh, I have one story where I remember and I don't remember what it was. I was overseas and we were having a dinner at a Chinese restaurant. And I came out and I saw an old lady, a homeless old lady, picking up boxes. And then that always just stood out to me. And I would ask myself the question, or why is it some people, like they don't have a choice over where their life headed? Yeah, so you're supposed to plot all these stuff on this paper. And once you look at that, all your positive, negative moments, you should be able to start to draw out certain themes in your life. Themes that will kind of indicate what are some of the things that you are passionate about lah. Yeah. Yes.
You see, for me, I was thinking like, so it's not just significant milestones, right? Like, I don't know,
graduation. No.
Like,
do you remember
markers.
anything about your graduation?
Yeah, a bit.
A bit? Yeah, but anything relevant to your identity?
No, maybe.
There you
so
go.
It's
lah.
more like emotional. It's memorable. You have a lot of feelings.
Yeah,
towards
memorable. But it also doesn't necessarily mean if you have very high emotions at that moment that it is
okay.
indicator. So
Ah,
again, like the previous method, you need to ascribe meaning to that incident. There's a
okay.
story behind it of why it mattered to you
Mm,
and why it sticks out to you in your life.
okay.
Yeah. So I would say, for example, right,
Mm,
I've always been a kid that in these incidents, like the common theme, one of it is the question of why is there evil in this world? Why are human
mm,
beings bad to each other? And who is God in the mess of all our humanity? Lah. So when you hear that, you go, okay, it's not surprising that I'm a pastor and a
mm,
person who communicates that in my messages, right?
mm,
So I have these distinct things that are kind of already like coming out in the things that I'm drawn to, the things that
mm,
make me sad, the things that make me joyful. Like there's
mm,
a common theme. And that
mm,
kind of points to your why and your identity and your calling or your passion or your interest.
mm.
Okay?
Okay. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Sorry, PC. I wasn't just thinking about my life. Okay.
Okay.
I was just like all the moments in my life that I feel very a lot of emotions to are things that God has done for me. I don't know. Does it sound too
Then you
spiritual?
feel God has done something for you.
Yeah. Like something miraculous or something like wow. Yeah. Okay.
Which
But
points to
anyway.
your that transcendence
Yeah.
piece, right? Like
Probably.
belonging to some bigger
Yes.
thing and that there's some higher power
Mm.
that is good and
Yes.
looking out for you.
Yeah. Okay. It's just interesting. I just realized like, oh, okay.
Okay,
Anyway,
there you
so
go.
PC, we have a few questions. So
Okay.
first one is how do we know something is really our passion and not just say our ego or other people's expectations for us? And
Mm.
what if we have multiple things that we are good at?
How do we suss it out, hey?
Yeah.
Okay, so I always say this, right? You need to do inner work. You need to go
Mm.
through these, like, use whatever tools are available to you to figure it out, like
Like
the two
example, the two
methods that we
methods.
just gave you. Because I think actually, right, many of us, what we tend to do is we do it unknowingly. Sometimes when
Mm.
there's a happenstance of like a journaling activity in church or a personality test in school, and then you start to have conversations about it. But I think very often the difference between those who discover their why and those who
Mm.
don't is often those who don't do it in a disciplined, systematic way. So they don't do the inner work, the reflection, the digging deep, the journaling, asking questions of their interests and their feelings,
Yeah.
and so they can never come to kind of a concrete trajectory lah. Yeah.
Mm.
So I think you have to go and do that work. You got to figure out, are my positive emotions in this moment lasting?
Mm.
Maybe you got applauded for a good job or you got recognized at
Yeah.
graduation, but is it lasting? Did it
Mm.
really fill your soul or was it just like your ego for a moment?
Mm.
There's a difference. Is this something that now we're going to talk about discipline in a while?
Yep.
Sometimes people's expectations are not a bad thing because they
Mm.
could lead you to your calling. But then you still have to filter through, right? Is this really me or is this a label somebody slapped onto me?
Yeah, because some of them are asking that how about like say money, recognition?
Mm-hmm.
Are those things like their passion?
Yeah, okay. So that one can be a complicated one.
Mm.
Because I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with money.
Yep.
And maybe you are a person that goals and profit margins are helpful to you. But I think if your making money isn't connected to a deeper why of meaning and purpose in terms of you can impact people's lives, right? Then you find that's the common human experience lah, where they say money doesn't make you happy or satisfied, or it just
Mm.
becomes like there's never enough or there's the next thing to chase and you don't feel ever settled.
Yep.
Yeah.
So PC, how do we help someone realize
Realize?
that money
Oh,
doesn't make
money
you
isn't everything.
give you true happiness in life?
Wow. Come to church. I think, actually, I don't think it's that difficult. I think it's a very select handful of shallow people who will think that
Mm.
money is everything. Like they're either narcissistic or something else.
Mm.
Yeah. No, not that money isn't a good thing.
Yep.
Okay. It's just if that's your only obsession in life, then you'll live a pretty sad and undisconnected life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you just have to point people to meaning and purpose. I think it's not so much telling them that you're shallow. It's if you can get them to
Ask the right questions.
ask the right questions, the
Mm.
meaning of life.
True.
Normally, I feel every human being kind of knows it. inside.
Yeah.
But I do think sometimes the better nature gets drowned out by the noise of the world. What people tell you is cool, comparing ourselves to each other, wanting the next cool thing. I think those things drown out our better nature. But I think that most human beings actually have a better nature. Yeah.
Yes. PC, one of them is asking, I'm just starting to go out to work. Where should I focus my attention?
Yeah, I think you got to kind of be practical about it. I know we live in a generation, millennials and Gen Z, where it can be too idealistic. So millennials want the perfect job.
Yeah.
Gen Z wants their job to be perfect.
Ooh.
Yeah, okay. So I think you do have to be practical. Life doesn't deliver everything that you want out on a silver platter lah.
Yes.
So one framework I give our peeps all the time is a very practical one. There are 3 concentric circles. Not concentric, sorry, 3 circles. And they overlap. Okay, so the first circle is passion.
The outer circle?
No, one circle is
one big,
passion.
okay.
And then what energizes you is the question. Because I think at the end of the day, I mean, just like what Angela Duckworth says, you need to have some interest in what you're going to do. Otherwise, you won't feel motivated to even show up at work.
Yeah.
You'll always perform mediocre. Okay. The second circle is your design. You must be able to have some talent or skill in that area, lah, so to speak, and as close as you can get to what you're naturally good at doing, try to do that. So that needs to overlap with your passion. But then there's a third factor, which is economics. You need to be able to make a living and live a life. Sustainable.
Yep.
Okay. So just try to find something as close to the overlap of those 3 circles as possible. And get there lah.
Yep.
Yeah. Now that being said, certain passions and certain interests, right, are harder than others. Okay, so for example, if your dream is to be an artist, the reality is that the chances of being a successful artist are very slim all around the world. Like the top 1% of the 1% make a lot of money. So you have to ask yourself, can you live with that? And will you be able to make a living? Yeah. Now it doesn't mean give up your artistry, but it may mean that you got to readjust your expectations of where it's headed and try to find something that works for you.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, or other things that are more pragmatic. For example, maybe some of you are considering joining the uniform, okay, which means police, army, all that kind of stuff. That's great. You might like the lifestyle and everything. You like the discipline, the regimen, the whatever you like about it. But the thing about it is you need to know where does the career go, which is those careers end with early retirement. And if you don't have a plan for what happens after retirement, then you have a problem. Yeah. So still go in that direction. I'll still say if you're passionate about it, as far as possible, do what you're passionate about. Because normally, if you do what you're passionate about, you will put in effort. If you put in effort, you will tend to develop skills.
Yeah.
And so you tend to be better at it than doing something you don't love.
Yeah.
But you have to be practical too, lah. So what happens after you're 40? Do you have a after 40 plan, for example? So those would be the practical things that you've got to consider, lor.
Yeah. Got it. Gerald has a question. He's asking, is it possible to never find your why?
And my answer is only if you never try or never ask yourself questions. I don't think so. But I do recognize, right, there are a few people in this world who don't really care about finding their why, but very rare. I think most people want to know. Or number 2, you didn't get exposure to lessons like this, so you don't know how. Or you didn't go find a book to help you.
Or maybe life is really, really tough on you.
Yes, or it is also that. So there is an economic factor lah. Some people don't get as much choice as we do here in Singapore.
True.
Yeah.
The second thing is discipline.
Yeah, okay. So the other really important thing we need to cover in passion, interest, and calling is this word called discipline, which most people hate, okay? Now, this is actually really, really important because Angela Duckworth actually says without discipline, interest never turns into talent.
Into skills.
Yes. So she in her research, she found that there are two distinct stages to a person turning something into a viable calling, which is, so it's not enough. Like, interest must be discipline in order to become talent. And then talent has to have another round of discipline in order to become a skill. When she studied successful, gritty people.
Wow.
Yeah, okay. So food for thought, guys. Discipline is something you cannot run from, Gen Z. Okay. I should. I want life to be fun. Discipline. Okay, so anyway, there's this other thing, okay, that
Yes.
Angela Duckworth says to do. So one of you asked the question, what if you have many interests? Right? How do you whittle it down? Or if you have a lot of talents, then what do you whittle it down
To focus on, yeah.
Okay. So Angela Duckworth calls this disciplined experimentation. So she found that successful people and gritty people and resilient people, right, actually have this thing in their lives, discipline experimentation. Okay. So when you're young, it actually is important, guys, for you to try different things. Okay, because very often it's through trying that you discover interest. It's not something that just think and then you figure it out. Okay. So it is important to try. But what she found is that you need to commit to them for an extended period of time. You cannot jump from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. You can't just go and attend one weekend workshop and then this is my calling. And then the next week try another weekend workshop. It does not work that way.
So
Okay?
basically, when she says extended period of time, she's referring to like
extended period. Okay, so she has this really cool thing that I think that one day when I have kids, I'm going to do this with my kids too. Okay, so in her
Yes.
family, there's a rule, okay, which is everyone in the family has to do a hard thing.
for the year.
Yes. So, for example, for her, one of her hard things, obviously, when she communicates that to her daughters, is I'm a researcher and I study grittiness and resilience in people, and I help companies figure out how to, or organizations figure out how to train their athletes, their best students, and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so she said that's my day job, my one hard thing to do, but there must be another hard thing that I have to do in life. But her kids only have one hard thing, so I guess their hard thing is school lah, and then some other extracurricular activity. Okay, so everyone in the family has to do a hard thing. And eventually, when they were older, this becomes a hard thing that her daughters have to choose for themselves, because that's on the principle of if they are interested, they're more likely to stick with it.
Yep.
Okay, but when you're young, it's not so easy lah, because when you're young, sometimes you really don't know, and then it's really just try.
Yep.
Okay, so first one, everyone has to do a hard thing. Then number two, everyone has to commit to that hard thing for a period of time. So when the kids were younger, 1 year. Then when they got to high school, our secondary school, it became 2 years. Okay, so then the third rule is, barring any serious issue, you cannot quit your hard thing during that period. Cannot quit. So very specific, you cannot quit if your dance teacher scolded you at dance class. You cannot quit if you lost a match. You cannot quit if your work wasn't up to scratch and you got negative feedback. You have to stick with it and you have to show up next week, even if you came home crying. For example, okay?
Yeah.
So they couldn't quit for like reasons and sulky reasons and like, yeah, okay?
Yep.
And then finally, number four, at the end of that period, only at the end of the period, then can you change your hard thing. If you discover, not really my thing, want to try something else. Okay?
Wow.
Yeah. Because what she found is actually sometimes interest doesn't show up in people until quite far down the line of trying something. So you can't, like, actually that's true of our whole worship team, no? Okay, so our worship team, right, sometimes training youth band is the most vomit blood because they are so ill-disciplined. They don't do their practice hours. They come in for SOW lessons, music
Unprepared.
lessons, unprepared. They waste the teacher's time. They get scolded, right? And then for some reason, some way, halfway down the line, they become disciplined. And then it becomes their talent and then their skill. And now they want to do it forever. So there is always a period, I think, especially for youth, right, where we're just like, everything needs to be fun and I don't want to do, and you whine and you groan. But then it turns out that you're good at it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So that's the reason for disciplined experimentation in discovering your passion. Okay. Now, Damien had a question that's very interesting, right? So he said
Yeah.
school system in Singapore is pretty inflexible.
Mm.
So what happens when, because of school, there are limited choices and you get boxed into certain stuff? Okay.
Yeah.
My answer to that is there's a truth to that. Singapore is very regimental and there are very, very limited selection. But that is where extracurricular activity comes into play. Curiosity, discovery comes into play.
Yeah.
That's why Aishu says, right, when Aishu sent me her question, is like she's like TiVo had allowed me to
Yeah,
discover a lot of different stuff that in secondary school I wouldn't have gotten a chance to do.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think again it comes down to find a way to experiment if you can lah. And then for us, especially for you who come from poorer homes, because there is an economic element to this, right? Kids from poorer homes have less choices. They go to schools with less choices. They have less money, so they have less choices outside of school.
Yeah.
So when you come to TiVo, we try to, when we can, we supplement youth having exposure.
Yes. Yep.
And again, we know that some of them, they may not want to do it forever. Like last time we used to send some kids for drum lessons, and we know that they are probably not going to continue with it, but you got to stick with this for 6 months or a year. And the thing that we're trying to train in them is more discipline and resilience and meeting demands versus the actual skill and talent itself.
Yes.
So I think the other thing is that remember that skill and talent and interest, right? Sometimes we can be very prototypical about it, that oh, I'm good at science or I'm good at that, and that's all the choices. But there are so many other skills you grow up and you realize, oh, management is a skill. Talking to people, communication, like you learn a lot in between skills that don't sometimes have a label. Yeah, so I would say just try things extracurricularly lah. Yeah.
So basically joining a CCA is helpful.
Oh, this is a very interesting thing she said in the book, right? So you know how in Singapore we always say, oh, parents are packing their kids with too many stuff. Now I know, like if they're too tired, I think it's a problem.
Yep.
And sometimes I see the kids are too tired. But Angela Duckworth found, right, in her research that there's actually almost no such thing as too much extracurricular activity. Because she said it creates a lifestyle of discipline and
True.
structure.
Yeah.
So the things that the kids are learning are not just a skill. They're learning soft skills of showing up, being on time, drilling,
knowing a schedule.
knowing your schedule. Yeah, so that is the thing which we teach in TiVo.
Yes.
It's not just about learning how to do the lights or EQ sound. It's about the discipline that's created in your life that allows you to be a helpful human being.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So PC Cheryl has a question. What happens if at the end of 2 years you don't want to continue? Is it wasted time?
No, it's not wasted time. I think I kind of just answered it.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think that idea again comes from, I think because our generations are too in a hurry. We're just really anxious that we need to know everything and be everything, because really the people we're pegging ourselves against are like the 1% of the 1%. You know what I mean? But 99% of people don't discover their identity and calling that
Like
way.
we want to get there by 25.
Yeah, we want to get there by 25. Yeah, so the answer really is no, it isn't wasted time, because again, back to just belabor the point, it is about who you become, not what you do. Your roles will change, your career will change, but if you know who you are and you become a great person, I mean, then that's when the world is kind of your oyster lah. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So Ashley's question is, how do we know whether something we are passionate about is something we should try to pursue in terms of career and get better at?
So my answer is do what Angela Duckworth says, commit to it for a year.
At least a year.
Or 6 months lah. If it's a real like don't know whether you want to do thing, then commit to maybe like learning the guitar for 6 months. And then another 6 months. And then a year, and then see where it goes. Do it. Don't just think about it. Because think about it and how you know whether you go or don't. Yeah. Then I think the second thing is you have to commit to mentoring. So this is another thing she talks about. Like mentors are very important in our life. Coaches. And that's why extracurricular activity is good, because there's demands placed on you.
Yeah.
You have to be disciplined and
You have to
then you
meet
get feedback.
expectations.
Yeah, and people can tell you. So
Yep.
you want to get good feedback. Now, be very careful. I know some people give very bad feedback.
Mm.
I don't know lah. Maybe they're broken people, and so they want to hurt the people that they are teaching.
Mm.
But generally, you should find people who can give you good feedback, and you can be realistic about whether you are designed to do this or not.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. PC, you were telling me just now that Liz Wiseman, the author of Impact Players, that she studies successful people at work. And then she said this very powerful thing, which is passion should be who you are, not just what you do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, yeah,
meaning
yeah.
passion, we don't just find passion in something that we're doing, but passion literally becomes
Yes.
who we are, that
Yeah.
we bring passion to our work or things that we're doing.
Yeah, okay. So now we're going to flip it, right? We talked about interest and passion
Yeah.
and discipline, about things, but now we're going to flip it into the attitude of who you become.
Mm.
Yeah, because so she studies impact players in different industries. So usually this is a term that they use for athletes lah.
Yep.
The most prized players on a team, for example. The people that leaders and bosses love to give opportunities to and always tap onto when there is a project or important thing to be done lah. And so what she found is a quality among them is that passion. They bring passion to everything they do, not just the things that they are interested in. Okay, so Gen Z, listen up. Right, because there was that Business Insider article that we posted on our highlights reel, right, that says Gen Z leaves the workplace really quickly because they're not interested in it.
Yeah.
Now, you must be somewhat interested. I think every incident is different. But if there's a general pattern of you're always leaving things because, oh, my boss is not giving me the projects that I want to do, you're not going to get very far in life. Okay, because people, it's more about quality that you need to have lah. And we say this all the time because even about things that you're passionate about, when you're not doing well or things go wrong or you're discouraged, right, we lose passion. It happens because passion is, in that regard, is a feeling.
Yeah.
Right? But you can't live life by just feelings, what? You gotta have a certain disciplined demeanor about you in order to get ahead in life law. So it's really important that, again, what we said, you're not just cultivating a specific skill set, even though that's 50% of the equation.
Yep.
The other thing you're cultivating is attitudes, mindsets, behaviors that help you to get ahead in life. Okay, so she says this is very funny. So she said there's this quote that everybody loves from Steve Jobs, right? Do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life, right? She calls it. I'm going to paraphrase what she said. So she calls actually all these social media punchlines and quotes, right? From like graduations and all that. She calls it fast food success. Sounds great, looks good, but is most of the time reductive and has little or to no nutritional value.
Oh.
Yeah, okay, because the path to success isn't just doing what you like, okay? Because and especially at the beginning of your career, because most of the time you don't get to do what you love all the time at the beginning of your career. It's not available. So she has this term that she calls value decoys, okay? And they are two traps that people often get into at work. So one extreme is they go to work and they just do their duty.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the first trap. So usually what happens is these people, they are very hardworking at work, but because they have no interest, they're kind of just like doing their duty lah.
Yeah.
Okay, and so, or they tend to be people that are very fixated on their job description. Like I only do the things that are listed in my profile, and then I work 9 to 5, and then once 5 is done, sorry, tomorrow then I'll get to it.
So it's a really like worker mentality.
Yeah,
Just
worker mentality.
do what's needed from me and nothing more.
Yeah, and it's a very self mentality also. So what she finds is people like that actually don't get ahead, and bosses don't like working with them.
Yeah.
Because they are just very minimal
Yeah.
and they just do their duty. So you don't want to fall into that category. So go and find something that at least you have some interest in, so that you have motivation. You don't start leaning into that that trap. Okay. Now the second trap she calls short-sightedness of following our passion. Okay. So she said passion is a sound strategy for picking a career. But once you are in the organization, following your passion can actually do more harm than good.
Wow.
To your future. Okay? So you have to be able to go into the organization and meet needs. and to be able to fill gaps. Because actually, so what they found in their research, right? Managers and leaders consistently only give opportunities to the people that they feel they can trust, that they will do a great job and they'll do a job passionately and they will rally a team together to get the job done and meet the need.
Yeah,
Then
true.
those are the people the managers are more open and excited to listen and help them get ahead. So here's another myth, right? Everybody always says this, right? Oh, my boss want to help me get ahead. Now, there's some truth, some bosses really are like that.
Yeah.
But what she found in her research is that majority of bosses actually do want to help people find their passion and calling in life and find a way to express themselves in the organization. But the problem is they cannot find people who are willing to meet needs. And so they don't trust those people and they don't want to necessarily open doors or waste resources on those people.
Wow.
So what she found is that people who live by a value of service to others are actually the ones that get ahead in their career. Yeah.
But it's so true. I mean, like
Yes.
if you give if somebody goes into an organization and they are able to fill the gaps, they're able to see things from a bigger point of view, from not just like my duty and only my position, but they can kind of see how else I can give, to the
Yeah.
company, then those people will be valued. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And here's another interesting one that made me think, right? Because she said actually, increasingly in our world, right, the research shows that the world is getting more complex and complicated and fluid.
Yeah.
And so our old models of like organizational chart, right, where we draw very clear boundaries on this is this person's role and that is that person's role, don't overstep, don't whatever, it actually in real life now does not work at all.
Oh.
Yeah, but we haven't fully transited. We're carrying those old ideas into how we're doing work. So sometimes unintentionally too, we're fitting into that model. When she says right now, if she looks at the research, right, people who get promoted at work are actually people who go way beyond the boundaries of their job description. And they know how to work with other teams
Yeah.
and immediately see the gap and see the need and see what their boss's priority is and find a way to wisely make that work. Yeah, so those are the people that bosses are going to promote and look for.
Yeah.
And speaking as a leader, I go, yes, that's exactly who I look for and exactly who I promote and exactly who, I mean, you know me, I love mentoring people and always trying to find a space that people can grow.
Yep.
But the ones that respond well to me and are excited and enthusiastic and passionate to help fill the gaps, I look out for them even more. It's not even a calculated thing. It just is naturally you help people who are reciprocal, lor.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Yes.
So very important, okay. Which brings us to the third one.
Yes. Which
Now
is
we get to
calling and purpose, which we talked about. Like it's connection.
Mm.
It's the third stage of our calling, where we make a difference and make impact in people's life.
Yes. So if you heard all this, right, it starts to make sense, right? And you just think right now of all the people you admire who are successful, right? If you boil down, just take away all the whatever that looks like.
Yep.
It comes to they're successful because they are meeting a need that people have. They are creating a solution that is making an impact. Or whether it's a solution like that has an impact on people or impact on the furtherance of science and all that kind of thing, it's because they're meeting a need.
Yep.
Okay. So what they found also, now this comes from Harvard Business Review, right? There was a study that they did and they found that actually to be the happiest, don't follow your passion. I assume they're talking about interest right now, right?
Yeah.
It says go and solve big problems to be happy, okay? So the other thing they say is you can either do what you want on a small scale or you can help steer an organization to do something really, really big. Yeah, so therein lies the tension, right? Where everybody asks, like, when does my thing begin and end, and when does a community begin and end? Is this issue of calling law? Our interests and our passion and our skills, or the money that we make, at the end of the day, in order for us to find meaning and purpose, it has to be connected to something bigger than ourselves. It has to be connected to people and impact.
Yeah.
Connection law.
Yes.
So Angela Duckworth talks about how every person has that discipline, that journey of passion and discipline. But every one of the people she studied that score high on grit and resilience, right? They all have a story of the moment that it turned into a connection with people. It could have been they were at a summer program giving tuition to kids and they found their calling because they took their skills or their academic ability
Mm.
and translated it into helping somebody else.
Mm.
It could have been some internship that they did, a random project came along and they connected it to people. And then that's the moment they went, okay, I can do this
Mm.
for the rest of my life and it gives me meaning and satisfaction.
Yeah.
So there's no way around it.
Yeah.
Calling has to do with connection and bigger life.
Mm.
Otherwise, you kind of feel like you're just going round and round and round and you're never part of something bigger lah.
Yeah, which is so true because PC, I really feel like making a difference is very intrinsic human thing.
Mm,
So like every one of us have that innate thing, like really to want to make a difference to
mm,
people's life. Like PC we were talking about the other day, like even people who I don't know, maybe they pursue a corporate career or something, and then 40 years, 50 years down the road, they still cycle back to they really want to make a
yeah,
difference.
can I give back? Can I
Yeah.
give my money? Can I
Mm.
volunteer? And sometimes there are real reasons, right? We said
Mm.
sometimes economically we can't afford to do certain things.
Yep.
Or maybe at that point of time, our parents' generation, there wasn't that kind of thinking that you could do both.
Mm.
But in our generation, there is.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes the hardest thing about our generation is there's too much selfishness and self-absorption
That drowned out the
that drowns out the instinct to
Yeah.
make a difference in
Yes.
people's lives. So
Mm.
if you ask me, money, do I feel a career that has money or advancement? Now, practical advice, if I meet you face to face, I will cater it to your situation. I'll tell you, I will be asking you things about your job and
Mm.
blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, I will still tell you as a mentor, right? You do have to find something that is more than just the paycheck that you make or the recognition you get from getting promoted at work.
Mm.
Because, well, now, I mean, we've talked about this all the time in Christianity, but now it's in research already.
Yeah.
People need connection in
Mm.
order to feel happiness, joy, satisfaction. We have to impact people lah.
Mm.
All right, so I think we can wrap up for today.
Yeah.
But maybe just to encourage you guys, like to
Mm.
end on a good note, like I know many of you are kind of looking for what you're going to do next, and then
Yes.
who am I going to become? But I do want to encourage you, right? Do all this stuff, do the discipline, reflection, and kind of go where your interests are, your passions are, but don't ever forget about making a difference in this world
Mm.
because that will make a difference in your life.
Yeah.
All right, and that's it for today for Uncommon Humanity.
Yes.
See you at the next episode.
Bye.